Hello, my name is Nicholas Sandoval, and this is my speech of persuasion, and this is my lovely audience. Okay. Today I will be discussing directly to you the problems in our society about pharmaceutical drugs and the drugs that are abused, people get addicted to, and people overdose with. I will be discussing mainly how the government and mainly how society sees this problem and how it affects it. I will be discussing ways to prevent it and ways to fix it, as well as I will be discussing the different causes about it. Okay. Now, the main problem with pharmaceutical drugs is that the addictions happen a lot where people don't notice them. About 2,500 youths daily between the ages of 12 and 17 try a pharmaceutical drug incorrectly for the first time in the United States. And out of those abuse, 15 million a year get addicted to it in the United States. This is more than any other country in the world. And that's only per year. And this outweighs all combined addictions and abuses of cocaine, heroin, all inhalants, and all hallucinogens. Now, the level of OD for pharmaceutical drugs counts for 45% of all overdoses in the United States. And this is a recurrent statistic over every single year. And we'll be going over mainly the problems and the causes for this. Now, a big cause for this will be the government funding on research that has to do with the preventing of this, not just addictions, but the preventing of these harmful, for example, rehabilitation centers that pharmaceutical drugs have. In our government system, we have a thing called lobbying, which is where a pharmaceutical company takes a lobbyist, which is usually an ex-politician, to go and talk and have a have a persona in the government. This persona has a say in what happens in specific laws about specific drugs that occur. Another big problem would be funding and research to figure out the drugs that actually work and the ones that don't. We have been using the same drugs for years at a time, and over the years we figure out what happens and what doesn't. For example, aspirin was used mainly as the number one basic anti-inflammatory and basic painkiller over the years, but it wasn't until years later that people found out that it actually caused a very serious illness in youths, and therefore was taken and used a lot more sparingly than it used to be. Now, another big thing would be the social teachings of pharmaceutical drugs. In society, we are taught that pharmaceutical drugs are better. They're not necessarily the same as other narcotics like cocaine or heroin and should be regarded with a lot less sense of danger. But where in reality they can actually be more dangerous, more addictive, and way more harmful to the body and to society than those drugs can be. Another big one is the unsafe teaching of how to use these drugs. For example, a lot of problems people see is that someone will take a very constant pharmaceutical drug when that they cannot take with other like substances like alcohol or with specific other things like they can't drive because they get drowsy, and this isn't communicated or taught as effectively as it should be. It isn't taken as such a big, legit warning as it is. Now, solutions for our society, in other words, our entire country as a whole, would be to increase government funding and to decrease dependence on lobbyists and political turmoil when it comes to this process. It should be seen as something that has a lot to do with public safety instead of public opinion and public financial gain. By increasing funding on research that has to do with finding newer, better, healthier, safer drugs for the community, we stop funding for drugs that are cheaper to make and a lot more harmful to the human body. Another way we can do is to teach people on a national scale to treat pharmaceutical drugs a lot more dangerously and a lot more serious than people do. And another big way is to help research and petition to fund specific drugs that right now they're illegal because of very past happenings. For example, the drug CBD is a very good way to cure or help treat seizures and epilepsy, but because of previous and ancient stigma, it's being seen as a way more harmful drug than it is, and as such, all research is being blocked towards it and not allowed to be funded and helped improve human lives. Now, a local, more communal way to fix this would be to help look into the states. Talk to Congress about state funding and research toward pharmaceutical drugs that can help people. Teach kids in school about the dangers of it a lot more openly and vividly than they do now. And the third one would be to work with communities and the state's financial system on ways to prevent. So, for example, to prevent kids having access to it or people that are not supposed to have access to it. Because right now, it wasn't until recently that child-proof caps on pharmaceutical bottles were openly available and had to be law for all drugs, outside of normal, common, everyday drugs. But that being said, there's still drugs out there that if you take too much or is just grabbed and taken, could damage the human body. And they're given out in the basic little sheet of the pill that you just push through. They're not child-proof. They're not safe law. Now a close, more personal way to solve this problem is to teach proper usage to the kids. Have the parents teach the kids on what to do and what not to do if they're taking the drugs, when to take them, and what to not touch and what to do touch. To make sure that if you see a pill, you know what it is, what is in it, and if you should be able to take it. If you as a person should take it. Another way is to help maintain a clean, organized environment for your drugs. So in other words, when it comes to pharmaceutical drugs, people tend to throw them around, not take care of them. If we created a more proper stigma in our homes about where to place them, how to take care of them, the same way you would take care of a firearm safely, of other substances safely, so on and so forth. Now, overall, this drug is a big epidemic. It accounts for many deaths and many addictions throughout the entire country. And if we all come together and help to be able to change the way our government works towards pharmaceutical drugs and to help redo our own personal stigma about it, we can recreate it and have less deaths, less addictions, and people can be safer and have better medical treatments. And that is the end of my speech. Thank you.
Now, please.